start the session. So yesterday we have seen what is the struts and introduction for the struts, okay, and which components are required for developing an application. So as for the MVC pattern, right? So let's go for to develop a simple application where we can display hello world kind of thing. So what does it require? We need a client where we can forward an action. Okay, that is called a struts JSP. The client is nothing but a struts JSP here. So in the struts JSP required a tag lib, that is tag lib is required, struts tag lib, where we can use for the form fields as of now. Later we will also see some other fields where we can into the same tag lib directory. So that is called struts. Struts tag lib is a directory, so where it contains many of the tags. Okay, and once if you send an action, so there is a deployment descriptor of web.xml, so where you can create a filter. The filter is of like dispatch filter, so where it can dispatching the actions into struts.xml. So the struts.xml to create an action or the name of a URL which is matched with the client. So that is going to be execute an action that is called Pojo class. Now Pojo class where we have an execute method, so which is going to be execute the whatever the action, and finally it will be written in the form of result. Okay, and the Pojo class, if you want, you can also use to extend. There is a class called action support, so whichever you want you can go ahead with that. Now let's try to develop this simple application where we'll have a button to click a button that is going to be perform an action. So let's try to understand this scenario. Now if you want to perform this scenario, first you need to remember the jar files are required. So whether you can download or create a user library where we have seen in the yesterday. Okay, so any one scenario could be follow. Now let's create a project. Now I used to create a project here, so go for dynamic web project. Say suppose struts 11 a.m. 19th 16, fine. So while creating a project itself, you can set the target runtime like whichever the server, okay, so which is already configured with Apache Tomcat 8. Otherwise you can add a new runtime server for whichever the application. So assume that most of the resources might have this Tomcat server, or else whatever other servers where you can, so Grassfish and some other like WebSphere, and if you have WebLogic, any of the servers which is supported for the Eclipse. Okay, so anyway I used to choose the Tomcat 8 which is already exist in my mission. Then click for next SRC, anyway that is the default, and here we have a content and generate the web.xml deployment descriptor. Finally click finish. So as for the web application, you already aware of this is the procedure for creating a project. Fine. So after getting this project folder, first step, first and foremost thing, you need to set or you need to add all the struts2 libraries. Okay, so you have two options. Either you can copy all those jars into lib folder, or else yesterday we already seen how to create a user library. Needs to add that library here. How to add that library? Right click on this project folder, go for properties, Java build path, add library, user library, where we have already added, select struts2, click finish, apply. Okay, that's enough. And this is the first step. The second step, we are going to be set those user library of struts2 into a web content folder, whatever the lib. So then we'll go for deployment assembly, web content, click add, go for user build path entries, there is a struts2. Okay, Now click finish. That is going to be set automatically. So otherwise we'll have a problem. Got my point? This is the first and foremost thing you need to do. The second step, we need to add a client. You should follow, this is the scenario, start JSP, where I'm going to add a simple JSP here. In the web content, right click and new JSP file. I used to enter, say suppose welcome.jsp. Click finish. First thing is to add the struts taglib directory. Taglib. Okay, so where we can use for all the information related tags. Struts tags. And to identify any of the prefix where we can use any name. Either you'll go for struts of yes, or else you can use for any other name, not a problem. So this is the first step into the client JSP, where we want to send an action to struts. Taglib URI struts tags. Prefix is a name which can be identified to access all of those tags. Okay, any name you can use. Then start an HTML. Inside, I used to create a form where the prefix is yes colon form, and need to add an action of welcome. Okay, so I have a button. So yes, there is a button called submit, and the value, the button caption, say suppose welcome. We can use like this. Okay, this is a simple client JSP is ready with us. We just added a taglib directory here by using taglib URI. Prefix is an identification of the tags. Is prefix of form, action is equals to welcome, and submit is a button. So when I click this button to connect this welcome URL as for the action URL. So how do you forward these actions? We'll have a dispatch filter. It is going to be dispatching the filter. We need to add a filter in web.xml that is called deployment descriptor here. So we need to add filter, then the filter name. I used to write Struts2, anything you can, and copy same as here. And the filter class is also required here. The filter class to remember org.apache.struts2.dispatcher.filter-dispatcher. So org.apache.struts2.dispatcher.filter-dispatcher, it's a class filter dispatcher. So it is going to be dispatch all the mapping URLs. So we need to write filter mapping, and the name is same, and the URL pattern where we will use like this all the patterns which are going to be dispatched into a struts.xml. So this is ready with us. Then next step, the third step, what is that? So we need to create struts.xml. Where do we create this struts.xml? Note this point. In the earlier version of struts, we need to create struts config.xml into web-inf directory, but whereas struts2 will create this struts.xml into src folder at the time of development. So whenever you deploy, that will be into classes folder. The actual scenario, the struts.xml is always to be into classes folder. Okay, let's create a struts.xml Java resource where we will create src. Right click, go for other, select XML of XML file. Next, The name is struts.xml. Click finish. So by default, which is to get an empty, like so. Here we need to add the DTD. That is very important here. So what I will do, I just copied in this edit place where we have a existing XML file. So I need to copy. This is the DTD. Okay. So we'll go back to here. This is the DTD. Then next, the parent element is struts. In this struts of parent element, we have a sub element called package. So package name can be anything, and we used to extend struts default, any other name, not a problem. So what is this? We'll see you later. Now in this package we need to write all the actions. So how do you? Very simple. There is an element called action. The action name. So what is the action name from the client? It's in the welcome, right? Okay. Copy this welcome. So name is welcome, and the class is required here. We need to create a class, and the action will be written in the form of result. So result name is equals to OK or success, whatever. Suppose I need to forward a result in the form of response or OK dot JSP or HTML, your wish, any of them, it's correct. Okay. Now the class where I will create com dot intone struts welcome struts, like this. This is the class I need to create here. So welcome struts. Fine. So this is enough for the struts.xml. Now go back to the project folder and create this class of a specified package. I'll go directly to class. This is the class name, welcome struts. Click finish. Okay. So either you can also extend an action support, otherwise you can run directly. So let's go for, first I will show you this, then after there is no need. Action support, it's a class from xwork package. Now this is the package what we need. Okay, so here we need to override. There is a method called execute method which does not contains any of the arguments. Okay, and the return type of execute method is string, remember. So anyway, as for this action we have a result in the form of OK. So this particular execute method return the same string of OK, so that will be respond to the response page of OK.jsp. Fine. So let's create OK.jsp here into web content JSP file OK.jsp. Click finish. Just normal page, insert whatever the title. Okay, so here we used to write h2 welcome to struts framework kind of thing. Okay, now this is the simple way we used to build an application. So we'll be back. Once the first step, we have a client need one tag lib directory where we can create a form field, and the submit button is here. When I click this submit button, which is going to be forward an action URL of welcome, where it is going to be dispatching into web.xml. This is the one-time filter is required for the entire struts application. Then after, no need to worry about for every time adding, similar for the servlet mapping kind of thing. Once it is required and entire application, no need for the next time onwards. Okay, but the struts.xml, yes, we need to add, we have a DTD first, create this XML into SRC folder at the time of development, that will be into classes folder. Struts is a parent element. Immediately we have a package. In the package, contains all of the actions into the application. We have an action, so which contains a name is an attribute, class is an attribute. Name is nothing but an URL, action URL here, which is going to be received from the client, and that will be forwarded into a class called welcome start, that is called Pojo class, where it is going to execute the action. So finally, that will be written the result name in the form of OK, so which is navigating into a response of OK.jsp. This is called view. Okay. Now here the controller is nothing but struts.xml, where welcome struts is a model. Now this is the OK.jsp is nothing but view. So everything ways to perform, and here we have a class and needs to extend an action support. So then first let's see you, then after I will also remove this, we will have the same kind of output. Okay, so fine. So we have an execute method, the return type is string. I used to return the result is OK. So once it is matches with the action of result, that will be forward to OK.jsp. Anyway, we have a OK.jsp here. I used to print a sample message called welcome to Struts framework. Okay, now the application is ready with us. The jars are also added, required jars, otherwise you will have an error here. Okay, because this is the package of the class, it is coming from xwork, whatever the jar file. Fine. So now let's run this application. So before going to that, so what is the default page? Welcome.jsp. So better to this is the welcome.jsp is the default file. Okay, now I'm going to be deploy this application, either wherever you are, right click, run as server, click finish. And you need to observe the console carefully. Sometimes it might be give some kind of errors also. Yes, there are the errors here. Please check it out. Is there any errors? Yeah, there is an error here. There is a spell mistake. Struts2 filter dispatcher, spelling wrong, patcher. Okay, so while deploying any of the applications, be careful to monitor the console. Once if you start, there is an error very clear about here. So Struts2 dispatcher, filter dispatcher, it's an error, spelling mistake. Now go back, stop the server. Fine, let's run again, restart the server. Again check the console. Is there any errors? So when we get this warning kind of thing, we do not have any kind of errors, but anyway, you just monitor. Yes, no more errors here. So we used to get the client page. Now what is the default page? Welcome. So when I click this, which is going to be navigate, easier way of perform the action class. What is the action class here? So welcome struts, where it is going to be execute the action and return the response of, this is the return response in the form of OK.jsp. Okay, and the same procedure, what I will do, I'll go back to the action class and remove this action support. You used to get the same kind of output. There is no difference. I told you in yesterday, no need of extending. There is no difference here once if you extend also. Got my point? That's up to you. Okay, so this is the simple way to create a simple application. Are you comfortable? Client struts.xml, and this is the POJO class of an action where it execute, finally it return the response. Okay, now are we comfortable? Any more questions here? And one more thing, I got to find there are the new joinees for like late attendees. Who are that? Amit, Nitish. So from tomorrow onwards, once if I start a session at 8:30 or 8:35, we used to start 8:35 around 8:40. Okay, and once if I start a session, I would not allow any other to be join the session. Okay, be careful. These are all the applications where we need to attend from the beginning, then only you can. If you are good at that area, please keep it. Rather than of attending middle of the session, that will be trouble for me. Got it? So from tomorrow, I need not wait. I do not allow any others after 10 minutes. So whatever you think, it doesn't matter about me. Okay, fine. So any more questions here? Use the text chat box, type. Are we good at enough for this? Then we'll go for the form fields. How do you receive the fields from the client to an application? Any more questions here? Use the chat box, please. Quick.
Srinivas,
Yes.
struts.xml.
Yes, Madhavi.
Struts.xml file.
Yeah. This is the struts.xml file, Madhavi.
Okay, Srinivas. So we are creating package and class here only.
The package is a default. It's a dummy kind of thing where we'll have all the actions. Okay, this is the default package. It's not exactly. That we'll see you later. Okay. In the package, you
Okay,
need to
here
create.
what is the name and class?
Name is nothing but action URL. So that means this is the client page, right?
Okay.
So when I click this button, then it is going to be forward an action, which is going to be submit an action URL. What is the URL here? Welcome.
Welcome.
So that is the URL is nothing but a name. Action name is nothing but URL. Got my point? So this URL of an action to execute an appropriate class. Name is an action URL. Class is where it's called as a action class, POJO class, where it execute the action. Comfortable, Madhavi?
Okay, Srinivas, fine.
Okay. Any other questions likewise? Fine. Now let's see you in the same application for adding one form field. It may be a text field or a password or any checkbox or a radio button or any other. Let's go for that. Now try to understand this scenario. It's very, very important. I used to create a text field which contains the name is required here. The name, there's an identification name for that. For example, F name, okay. I will go for NM or uname, better, username, okay. Label is another attribute where it is going to be create as a caption for that text field, label for the text field, okay. Now enter username, that's it. I just entered the name here. So this is the field name you are going to be get into an action class, right? So how do you get that field? I told you already, this is a POJO class, plain old Java object where it contains the setters and getters. And whenever add a field from the form of text field, so that is the way you can create each of the name for the field, okay, to have a setter and getter. So we can perform and we can receive that field from here by using a simple way as a bean called private field called string. What is the name for the field? The name should be match uname, the same of the field to create as a bean, and also add the setter getter here. Okay, now we got the set the value from the client and we are going to be receive. So here we have a value. I'm not perform anything here. I'm just forwarding into a result of OK.jsp. Let's understand this. Once this action got to be a value from the client field, which is going to be accessed into the result page of OK.jsp. How do you receive that field? By using a property. The property is nothing but the bean contains the setter getter methods where we can access the getter method for wherever you want to be in a value, right? So here if you have a condition called like if that username is equals to something, will forward a result in the form of success or failure kind of thing. Okay, I will show you both of the navigation. First of all, what I'm going to be explain you is we just added one form field in the form of text field, and I just create the same name of the field as a setter getter method here, and I do not perform anything based on the field, but I used to get the field whichever you entered into the result page of OK.jsp. How do you get from OK.jsp? Very simple. Again we need to add tag lib URI is equals to struts tags, and there is a prefix of any name. Okay, now I'm going to be get that property. What is the name of the property? Uname, right? How do you access? Very simple. Prefix colon property. It's a tag where we can get the value for which property? Uname property. That means user name, or else this is the value. Now go back here. The client, we have just added one field of username. That is going to be get from using the setter getter here. I do not add any condition based on the field. Anyway, I used to forward from this action into OK.jsp in the form of result. The result page to access that field by using a property. By using a property. Now, just save this. I'm going to be run the same application, or is it updated? Let's try for this. Go back. I think it is updated. Yes, we have a username. Click for username. This is the label. This is the label. So in generally in the struts, like servlet API, as for the HTML, the same thing. If you write username, it's a text followed by input type is equals to text. But here we have a label, so that is going to be create a label for the field. Okay. Now this is one, and enter the name called intone. Click for this. Now we got the value of intone. Now this is the intone of where? In the JSP of result. Result JSP, we are going to be represent the value. How do you represent the value? A simple way, property value is equals to the name should be match. This is the name where we can create a field of the action class uname, and followed by setter getter. We can't access this private field. We always do access from getter method. So that is what it is going to be perform the getter method in the form of a simple struts tag. What is the tag here? Property. So s colon property, the value we are want to be get the value from which field? Uname field. So that is going to be perform the get method. Okay, so we have a result of intone, whichever you entered that will be represent. Go back to enter, say suppose hello, then we used to get the same as a hello. Okay, so this is the another scenario where we can add the field of form. So we have a text field, name is must, label it's an optional. Likewise, to add any number of form fields here, any number of form fields here. Okay, so assume that we have many of the form fields, and for form an action in the form of condition based on, like, if the condition is satisfies, we will forward to success, otherwise failure. Assume that in that case what we do, I'm going to be add two more form fields here, one for username, it's a text field, and let's take a break here. We'll go for one more field, s colon, prefix colon, password is a field. Let's go for a name, keyword, label is equals to what does, okay, rather than of here, why don't create a separate page? That would be better way for adding many of the actions, right? Okay, fine, let's go for, I used to create one more JSP here, new JSP, it's a login JSP, click finish. Need to add the tag lib, okay, tag lib. So we have an HTML, then we'll go for form action URL, assume that login, check. Okay, and whatever the naming conventions of the URL, you should be careful for same as into struts.xml. If it doesn't match, then that will give you an error, so which does not connect any kind of action class. Be careful. So action URLs, if you would like to go for, like, in the different cases of first letter maybe a smaller, next word first letter might be a capital, same thing you can follow because it's case sensitive. Fine. Now no need of method attribute here, okay, that will be enough for an action. Fine. So inside I used to write there is an username in the form of text field, will have a name, uname, and the label is also required for us, say suppose username. And let's go for another field of password, name is equals to keyword, and the label is equals to password. Okay, finally we need a button, and that button is submit button, submit, and the value is equals to sign in or login, whatever you want, the simple way. Okay, now so we have a form, there is an action, we'll directly go for struts.xml to add an action. Okay, struts.xml, no need to go back to the web.xml of add another filter. So remember URL pattern which forward any of the action URL into a struts.xml. No need to enter for every time, similar to the servlet. So only one time is enough for entire application where we can add any number of clients and any number of action classes in between the struts.xml. Fine. We'll go for directly in the struts and need to add one more action. How do I add? Very simple. Action is a tag where we'll have a name. Name is nothing but, yes, the URL. What is the action URL? Just copy, login check, go back to struts, and the name is login check, where it is going to execute the class. So what is the class here? Let's go for com.intone.struts.login struts. Okay, So we have two results, one for success, result name success. For example, login OK or login success dot JSP, and another one is result name is equals to failure or fail, whatever, and this is for login fail.jsp. There are two, one for success, another for failure. So what I'm doing here, so in this login starts, we'll receive the parameters from username and password, where I will put a condition because I do not have a database right now. I just check with the simple way, simple generic condition where the username is equals to something and password is equals to something, that is going to be written the success page, otherwise it will go for failure page. Okay, so that is what I'm performing here. Now we'll go for an action class. Let's create the action class. What is the name of the action class here? Login struts. Okay, let's create a login struts here. Right click on the source, new, a class. No need to search for struts class here. Okay, login struts, click finish. Fine. So first the thing you need to create the fields. What are the fields here? So one for uname, another for password. Both are the strings. Okay, create a private field, private string. Uname is one field, another for, what is another field here? P word, I think so, password. Okay, now this is for password. And immediately to create a pair of setters and getters for both of the fields. Now go for a source and generate the setters and getters for each of the field. Then finally, to override execute method where it returns the string. So public string execute is a method. So what I'm doing here, I'll put a condition. Okay, I used to access the fields, right? Uname dot equals is equals to, for example, intone, and pword dot equals, say suppose admin. Okay, if this is valid, finally I used to return simple way of success result. Otherwise I would like to go for return what does failure, I think so. Yes, let's check it once. For this stars.xml, one for success, another for failure. Okay, this is a simple way of performing the thing. Okay, uname is equals to intone and password is equals to admin, then that will be written the result in the form of success, where we can access similar uname and passwords. Okay, even the failure JSP also access the fields of uname and password. So that is a simple way of the starts too. Okay, but only the thing is you should follow the architecture of MVC2. Okay, MVC pattern. That is the only difficulty, but anyway that will also be easier for performing day by day. Okay, but there is no drawback. Everyone can easily to perform any kind of application by using a Struts framework. Okay, so I think you got to be understand the flow of an execution where in the servlets what happened. So we need to add servlet mapping for into web.xml for every time. So one client of an action to execute one servlet class by using a pair of web.xml, and similarly we need to add one more class where we can extend the HTTP servlet or generic servlet, and to override the methods called whatever the do get do post and contains the HTTP servlet request and response. And we need to add every time request.get parameter, request.get parameter, and where we can get the value, and finally that will be processed. But in this struts I'm not extending any classes where similar for HTTP servlet kind of thing. Okay, I just create a simple poser class where we'll have all the setter getter methods, and finally we need to override only one execute method, and where we can perform the business logic easier for whatever the input fields. So as of now I do not have a database, that's the reason I just perform in the simple generic condition where I can manually verifying the hard-coded values. Okay, and one more thing is, if you want to get these values into the client page in the servlet, what happened? So we couldn't get directly. So whichever you want to get the field values from that, we need to forward a request. There is a request dispatcher where we can forward the same request into the request page. That request page is going to be again receive those parameters by using request.get parameter. But in this struts, you do not identify those kind of statements, those kind of like a difficult manner for creating every time as a do get, do post, request, response and all. Okay, this is the simple way, and this is the simple Pojo class, and we need to have a simple way of setter getter methods and execute method. We can do whatever the business logic here. Okay, and anyway, we need to create one for success page, another for failure page. So what we do, let's create a success.jsp, one more, I think L success, because we need to find many of these success.jsps. That's the reason I used to add L is nothing but login fail kind of thing. Okay, fine. So let's create those JSPs here. What we do, go for a content, right click, a new JSP file. So one or two sessions I used to type like this, and other sessions it may not be possible to do like this. I will have a example to explain you directly the step by step. Okay, so anyway, this is the first session. Fine, so I need to have a simple message called login valid kind of thing. So what we do, if you want to highlight those in username, you can highlight. So what will I do, copy the tag lib and else success where you can use a simple property. So property, the value of username, what we do is authenticated or valid user, any of the terminology, the simple way. Okay, and similarly you'll go for same as, okay, first copy the lfail.jsp, right click, new JSP file, lfile.jsp, click finish, copy the same whatever it is, change the string is invalid user, then try again, click here. So if you want, you can add like whatever the hyperlink. I used to go for generic hyperlink, then later we'll see you the struts hyperlink. A href is equals to what is that, login.jsp. It will be like this, sorry. Okay, and we need to give a break here. Fine, so is it updated? I'm not sure. Let's try for once through the browser. So what is the page, login.jsp? It is going to be no configuration found. Okay, yes, login username and password. We'll try to enter unknown username and password, or else I will have a welcome is a username, password is admin. So when I click this button, yes, there would be an error. What is an error? Null pointer exception. Okay, it may not be updated. Fine. What is an error here? Okay, let's try to restart the server. Could you check once the navigation flow? This is the client JSP where we'll have a username and password fields. So when I click this button, that is going to be in the controller of struts.xml where we'll have an action login check, and the class is login struts, and where it executes the action, and finally it returns success failure, and success will go for login struts where we created into the same package of struts, and this is the execute method whose return type is string, and there are the field called uname and password which contain the setter getter methods here. Okay, finally, and if the username of the input is equals to intone and the password is equals to admin, both are matched as for this condition, will return the success. And similarly we have a failure. If the condition is fail, that will be written into failure. Okay, so everywhere it's correct. Fine. So finally ways to create a success page here and also failure page here. So everything is ready with us. Now let's try to restart the server. Check once anything goes wrong, we'll figure it out. Fine. So next, click finish. And every time needs to monitor the server console. So whenever strikes in your application, wherever the errors, so don't be hurry kind of thing. Carefully to read the console first. Do you have any errors? Okay, let's find out no errors. Okay, application is started. Sometimes your application may not be start. Yes, you can look at for the console. Okay, so username can be a welcome, password is something in tone. So when I click this sign in, we just go for yes, welcome. Welcome is a user actually. Welcome is invalid user. Okay, try again, click here, we'll go back. Okay, if you enter proper, like the capital I intone and capital A admin, the valid details, now it is going to be intone is valid user. If you want to be a color, you can add whatever the HTML tag here, font color kind of thing. So intone is valid user. That means the simple way of validation performed into login struts class where it is execute. Okay, so in the same way you can also perform the JDBC database. Okay, so where we require to find out the field of username whether is it exist into the database. So that business method where it's required the argument of a uname, anyway you have a uname, right? So we'll access this uname, that is going to be perform a statement, finally it return the result, is it valid or invalid. So if it is valid, we'll navigate to some other JSP where we can perform the next navigation form, and otherwise else means invalid username password, again to enter the valid details. This is the simple way. Okay, once if you understand this flow, you can start working on JDBC also, nothing to worry, because you're already good at the JDBC, right? So how do you add, I will show you, but anyway let's try to understand this first scenario, then we will go for admin whatever the JDBC. Fine, so this is the simple way you can perform. And the next case what I'm going to be introduce here is generally in the action of struts where we'll have a class. There is a situation of the registration. So registration is where which contains so many form fields like first name, last name, father's name, and what do you call gender in the form of male, female, and we like to go for enter the qualification details, education details, and address, and we have a contact number and email ID, and finally username and password. Okay, and that is having so many the fields where we'll have okay more than two, more than five kind of thing, and the same kind of form might be seen some at the time called that is the edit profile. Even when I go for edit, the profile which have the same kind of fields but in the edit mode, first name, last name, qualification and all. Okay, only the thing is we are not able to see the password, but username is also visible, but it is not modifiable or editable. Okay, but other fields are going to be editable. Okay, in that case what we do in the same action class, generally what happens, every time we used to create okay, one particular class, action class. Okay, so but in the struts2 introduce, rather than of creating a number of classes, same class can be used for many of the clients. Okay, but this is not possible into the servlets where we'll have a, in the same form might have the same servlet. In the form might have many buttons, and through the buttons you can perform. What I mean to convince you is, for suppose there is a client form called insert, update, delete and search. These are all the buttons. We are performed only one button client, but we're going to see many of the buttons. Yeah, that is the possibility in the servlet where we'll have many buttons into the form. All of those buttons are going to be performed the same action servlet where we'll execute the do post or do get. But insert, update, delete does not perform the same logic, right? We are going to be define an individual logic for insert, update, delete and search. What we do, so generally what we write in the client page of a button, input type is equals to submit value, and also add one more attribute called name. Based on the name we will separate the logic. Based on the name we will separate the logic. What I mean to say, generally in this client we used to write input type is equals to submit, value is equals to insert. Similarly we'll go for update, delete and search. This is for update, this is for delete, this is for search. Okay, these are all the 4 buttons. You are familiar, you know how do you perform only one button action for the form, right? But in this is the scenario, also key will be used for servlet. So in this scenario, how do you go for? Very simple, need to add a name attribute. Name is equals to insert, name is equals to some other identification of the string which we need to go for servlet. So this is for delete, and again we need to enter name is equals to search. Okay, so then in the do post or do get, whatever it is, we used to, whatever the arguments here, we used to receive this parameter. How do you receive the parameter? So request dot get parameter of what is the name. Okay, so this is one, will have a mistake. Values are here, name would be common. Button action, button action, button action, button action, button action. So here also the name is button action. Suppose if you click in insert button, what is the value for this insert? So here it will be received string action is equals to something, and after this we'll have a condition. If action is equals to what? This is the hard coded way. Insert. If that action value is equals to insert, to perform the insert job, SOP insert job, insertion is going to be execute or perform here like this. And we'll go for else if, and we have what do you call, so action is equals to update, action is equals to delete, action is equals to search. Got it? So the same kind of scenario we can perform anywhere in the servlet, but the thing is we can't execute the same servlet for many of the forms, many of the actions. But whereas struts introducing to execute the same action class for many of the forms. How does, what I mean to say here, we have a class called welcome struts. welcome starts. Okay, and what I'm doing here, I used to write there is no field as of now. I will show you the simple way, then after we'll be back. In the welcome starts, remove all these things or keep it comment as of now. Okay, and ok.jsp also do not use this. Just a minute. We used to write welcome to starts framework. Okay, this is the simple way. Now what I'm doing here, go back. The same action class wants to be execute for another form. Generally what happens, I used to add one more JSP for suppose welcome 1. We have a welcome and we'll have a welcome 1. Click finish. Copy the same as here. So the action is same, submit is same. Action URL is also same, welcome. Okay, or else you can give some other action URL. So we'll go for welcome 1. So rather than of that, welcome 1. So what I want to be here, go back to the starts. Observe this, we have two JSPs where we have a client 1, client 2. Client 1 action is going to be execute into welcome starts. Client 2 action is also executes welcome starts. So you need to understand once I navigate this. We'll have like this URL of welcome 1 to execute the same class, and the result whatever you want you can go ahead with that. Assume that this is ok.jsp for suppose now there are two URLs, one for welcome, another for welcome 1. URL is where different forms. So all of these two forms are going to be executed by what? Welcome starts. But there is a problem. What is the problem? Both of the URLs are going to be perform the same execute method. Same execute method. Okay. So this is the problem. We'll resolve that problem immediately after some time. Let's run whether is it allowed for executing many more than one action URL of same action class. That is the question. Let's try to run this. If it is accepted, then we'll resolve to perform an individual methods for each action URL of same action class. Fine. So is it updated? Okay, let's try to run. First as a welcome.jsp. Where is the welcome.jsp? Okay, I will run from here. Acha, it is already. Okay, there is a button called welcome. So when I click this button, it is going to be execute, and finally welcome to Struts framework. Go back and run the welcome 1.jsp. Again same, to execute, finally we'll get the result. That means both of the URLs are going to be perform the same action. Fine. Now number 1. The problem is where both of the forms are going to be execute the same. That is wrong. So that there is an attribute where you can add a method attribute. What is that? Method attribute. You can use to write your own method where instead of execute, say suppose this is for first welcome. General way I used to write first welcome method, and here I used to write method is equals to second welcome. Okay, now I'll go back to the welcome starts. Are you following? What I'm going to be convinced is many of the action URLs in the form of forms are going to execute the same action class and also define their own methods. That means the action has a method attribute where we can define your own method name also. That is what I'm convincing here. Okay, so these kind of attributes does not allow the servlet API into the web.xml. Okay, so you can execute the same, but there is no difference. Every time it execute the same action servlet for any number of times, but the struts is allow. Okay, there is an attribute called method. From the method we can perform same action class, and similarly we have a different methods. So this is where we can decrease the classes rather than of increasing every time as an action servlet. So we will use this method attribute for decreasing the classes. Okay, and this is useful where you can perform and the CRUD like insert, update. So most probably both of these scenarios are having the same kind of fields. Okay, same kind of form. So in that kind of scenario you can use in one particular action class where you can declare one for insert, another for update, and similarly you can also perform delete also, search also. So that means one action servlet where it execute or where it will perform one module CRUD operations. So that's where you can decrease the classes and perform in a module wise also. So depends on your requirements. So wherever the difficulty, you can make it one action class, otherwise you can go ahead with individually also, not a problem. Okay, but there is a concept where we can use method attribute and also defining your own name. That is the way you can replace with the executor. So we have two: first welcome, second welcome. Let's go back to the welcome starts here. This is for welcome, sorry, first welcome, right? First welcome, and this is for public string second welcome. There are two methods here where you can return ok1.jsp also, not a problem. Sorry, ok1 or okay, because both are different actions. There is an error. Okay, I'll remove this. Fine. Okay, the job is done. So there are two methods rather than of execute. To execute many of the actions into one particular logic, I used to declare method attribute where I can separate first welcome for one action, second welcome for another action into same action class called welcome struts. So how does it perform? So how does it possible? Only the attribute where we can add into an action in the form of method. Okay, so first welcome, second welcome. So these are all the methods are going to be implement rather than of execute. That is enough. But in this starts where if you are going to be get from this action URL of welcome, which is executes first welcome, and if you are coming from welcome one, so this is going to be execute second welcome. So that's the simple way. And here if you want, you can write one more JSP called OK1 JSP as for our understandability, nothing to be. I used to create OK1 for sake of like understandability. OK1.jsp, click finish. So you already added something into OK.jsp. Same thing, you just copy here, paste it. Welcome. Okay, this is for, where is that? Welcome to first action URL. Better, I think it will understand easily. This is for welcome to second action URL. Okay, good. Now let's run this application for welcome one, welcome. Okay, let's go for welcome first. Is it going to be execute? after added the, okay, welcome to first action URL. Okay, I just added a method and also replaced by that method into an execute, and executes on whom? So first welcome method, because so whenever click that submit button from whatever the welcome.jsp, so which performs which action URL? Welcome, and there is an action class called welcome starts, and the method needs to identify here, so that's the method needs to be implemented into welcome starts. If you do not implement this method, it is looking for execute method where it executes the both of the action URLs. Got my point? Fine. So anyway, we got implemented this first welcome method so that it executes the first welcome method directly and represents the result in the form of OK.jsp. Now let's find out the welcome1.jsp, whether is it going to be fine. So let's try to run welcome1.jsp here. So when I click this button, so what is the result here? Welcome to second action URL. That means both are executing the same action class, but the logic, the block has to be differs between the method for action into struts.xml. Okay, so this scenario is going to be help for decreasing the classes. Okay, so assume that as for the form might have same for many of the situations, you can perform all of them into same action class to define with a method. So this kind of scenario will be used most of the advanced, like in the real-time scenarios. Okay, but anyway, it will help you for practicing whenever you do. Okay, but it is not possible for every time. It is possible for only the situations where it will have the same kind of form for many of the URLs. Okay, so number 2 got to be done, and number 3, as for the login.jsp, here we have a username and password. So generally in that particular action class of what you call login starts, where we'll create the setters and getters. For suppose there is a registration form where you can find there are more than 10 fields. All of the 10 fields are going to be create setters and getters. That action class might be like having that much of setter methods, getter methods, fields and all, will have a little bit confused. So why do go for this? Why don't create a separate bean class, why do not create a separate bean class and access that bean class into an action? So I'm introducing one more scenario where we will add a separate bean for the form, and finally that bean is going to be accessed into an action class. So how do you create a separate bean and how do you access that bean into action class? Please listen very careful. So this is another important scenario. So once if you, then we'll stop it today. Okay, otherwise we'll have a problem for you. So what I'm doing here, I will try to create one more what do you call JSP where I will have a number of fields. Here I will also introduce some other fields where we'll have a checkbox drop down kind of thing. So register.jsp, where we'll have we'll copy the tag lib directory where, and also HTML. Okay, needs to close and need to enter form action is equals to register. Okay, and let's try to enter is colon text field of name is equals to f name. Okay, and the label is also required here, a first name kind of thing. Then next text field of name is equals to lname, the label is equals to what is last name. Similarly, we'll go for text field of what do you call father's name or some other whatever you want. Okay, ft name, father's name, and the label is equals to uh, father's name. Okay, and we have a just for checkbox where we can use radio buttons also. Let's go for radio. We have a list. Okay, so list contains the array. What are the arrays here? We'll like, okay, already double quotes is there. We'll use like this. List contains the array. I need a male, I need a female. That's enough. And name is required. What is the name for this? Gender. Okay, so this is a simple way you can add s colon radio list which contains more than one. Checkbox also you have a list. Drop down also you have a list. And need to add a label. Label is equals to the simple way of struts tags. Okay, the struts tags is not only introducing the form, it can also support the Ajax, it can also support the JavaScript, it can also validating the HTML form. Okay, either you can use for checked is equals to true. Yes, that is all you can. We'll see you tomorrow session. Okay, fine. So label, we need to enter gender. Fine. So education qualifications, if you want, we'll go for drop down select. Select, again we have a list. So we need to write a what do you call sorry, inside so and so qualification call like this. Many of them. Okay. Suppose it might be BTech, MTech, MCA, and MS Masters, and this is for what is PhD, not PHP, PhD. Fine, there are many things are okay. Finally, we have a name. Name is required. Qualification or education, whatever you want. EDU. Fine. So label is also required. Choose a qualification. Here also choose gender kind of thing. Fine. So this is enough. Similarly, we'll go for what do you call checkbox also same. And address, yes, we'll go for text area rather than for text field. We'll go for name is equals to address, address, and label is equals to okay address. Fine. So assume that we have these many fields and somewhere you have a username and password. For suppose we'll go for text field. Yes. Then name is equals to your name, label is equals to username. Okay. Then similarly we'll go for password here. Password name is equals to password, label is equals to password. There are many form fields are available. Okay. Finally, we are going to be submit by using submit button. Submit. Okay. Value is equals to register. That's enough. So I just introduced radio, drop down box, text area. Similarly, you can also find what do you call? There is a simple concept called check boxes. Okay. So why it is introducing the list, you know? Usually the drop down box we used to get the database details, right? So in that kind of scenario the list can be a DAO where it will be written. We'll see you later classes, but this is a simple way to hard code it for the drop down box and select radio buttons and check boxes whatever you want. Okay, fine. So these are all the simple way of adding many of the form fields here. Okay, there are many of them. First name, last name, father's name, gender, qualification, where we have an address, username, password, and you can also ask for the mail ID, phone number, some other, whatever you want. and previous company detail, joining date and relieving date, and so many things are there. It depends on the registration. But anyway, let's go for this. But in this particular registration form needs to create, if you want to access all these fields into an action struts, what you call action servlet, where will execute. So if you want to perform all these fields, then we need to create a whatever the setter methods and getter methods, right? What I'm doing here, I will create a separate bean where it will contains all the fields of fname, lname, fname, sorry, ft name, father's name, gender, edu, education, and address, uname, and password. So what I'm going to be here, I will try to create a separate form bean. I will try to create a simple bean where we'll have a setters and getter which does not perform the action. Remember, which does not perform the action. Note this point, which does not perform the action. I am going to be add a bean class which contains only the properties. That's it. So I'll try to create a separate package rather than of intone. Okay, acha, we do not specifying any of the category here. Okay, let's create the same location. This is for register bin. That's it. Okay, we'll have all the setters and getters here. So private string f name, private string l name, private string ft name, private string gender, private string edu, private string for address, private string for uname, private string for password. Any other miss? Check it. 2, 3, 4, total 8. So f name, l name, ft name, gender, and edu for how many? 5, address 6, 7, 8. Total 8 got to be match. Fine. Let's create the setters and getters here. Click for OK, and everything got to be ready with us. Okay. Now I'm not perform an action where we just create a bin. That's it. And now I will create an action class. So before creating an action class, what we do, so register, what is an action? Register. Okay, go for struts.xml. Where is the struts? Okay, fine. Okay, here, go back to struts.xml, add one more action. Let's copy, or else you can type directly action name. I think okay, sorry, this is for register. Okay, okay, what happens? Just a minute. Fine. So, and the class is equals to com dot intone dot struts dot register struts action or whatever you want. Okay, fine. So here I need to perform a simple result. Name is equals to registered. Say suppose success or success or ROK, whatever, ROK.jsp. Okay, Fine, so either okay rather than of that. Now we'll go to register struts where it is receiving those parameters to perform. So let's create a class. Fine. So here we have only an execute rather than of adding all those fields. Public string execute to execute here. Now finally we used to return or return okay. Fine. So I want to access those form fields. So whatever the fields here, how do you access? There is a bean whose name is register bean, right? I will create that bean as a property. I will create a bean as a property. So register bean RB or bean, suppose register bean, where will contains the setter getter for bean property. This is the advanced way you can do it in the struts. Okay, rather than of all the fields here, all the fields will create into a bean separate class, the bean itself to act as a field for the action struts, where we'll have a property contains the setter and getter. If you try to identify the scenario, execute is where to communicate the dove class. The dove, there is a method called insert whatever the operation where it's required the bean object. Do you remember in the servlets? You have a bean object ready with us. Call the dove and pass the bean object called rbean that is going to be access all the fields. But the thing is, if you want to execute this action as a bean where the bean contains the form whatever the fields, you need to add one more change here. So what is the change? The fields of the register.jsp is also recognized by the bean. What is the bean property? Where is that? Registered students struts. What is the bean property name? rbean. That is going to be referred by each field of rbean dot. This is required. rbean dot, rbean dot, rbean dot, rbean dot, rbean dot, like this. Okay. So we used to refer a reference of field rbean. Rbean is a variable where it is going to be contains all the fields. That is the reason rbean means bean instance we are going to be referred. Okay, each of the field has to be declared a bean, and that is the field we are going to be referred by bean reference variable. Bean reference variable. Okay, so this is the another scenario where we can use a bean. Okay, the same bean can access any of the other action classes. That is the importance way, or else you can perform into the same action class of like insert, update, delete into the form of methods, user defined methods. So that is the simple way to perform the same form bean rather than of creating many of the classes. Fine. So I want to run this. If you want, you'll better to restart the server. I want to execute this register.jsp. Click finish. Yeah, look at here. We have a simple way of a radio button, drop down, everything will be ready. Okay, so enter something called Intone I, father's name, Intone networks, mail, mtech, address would be California, and username is Intone, password is Intone. So when I click this register button, where we'll have a problem, register struts execute. What is the problem here? Let's try to identify. Com intone struts register struts might be a problem with where is that? Okay, execute spelling wrong. Okay, very simple. So don't skip that error. You please try to find. So refresh once, retry. Okay, it would not be refresh. Okay, go back. Okay, enter the info. Intone intone networks, and it's a mail. We take California. And username intone, password is also intone. Click for this. Yeah. Acha, we do not create that ROK.jsp. Yes, it is correct. We are going to be perform ROK.jsp, right? Okay, that is the problem. So what we do, let's create ROK.jsp. Right click, new, JSP, ROK.jsp. Click finish. Where I can get whatever the field, say suppose copy the tag lib. Here also you used to get the same instance called Orbin. Now S property, still it is not refreshing. Property value is equals to Orbin dot let's take a FT name. Similarly, if you want to go for break S colon property value is equals to rbin dot any other name you name whatever you want. Okay, fine. So go back, refresh, enter the details. Intone intone networks, and mail will have an mtech California. Username is intone, password is welcome. So when I click, we used to get the details. Intone networks has a FT name, intone is a username. Okay, this is a simple way you can perform the bean separate class. Okay, so when do you add this bean class? If you have the same kind of fields for many of the actions, usually you would expect the same form into update profile, right? So everywhere, why do you want to create a number of segregators? So wherever it is repeated, we'll make it into a common way. It is the form of bean class. Okay, so you just use a bean and also perform an action through a bean reference. The reference of bean also be referred into in the client field of rb.fname. That means these fields are going to be specified into a bean. Bean is going to be performed into an action. Okay, so this is the another important scenario. Got my point? So we might be seeing many of the scenarios for the very first session. Okay, later tomorrow we'll have some other scenarios. So you need to practice for whatever we discussed in today's session. And tomorrow's session, before starting, I will ask you for everyone, show me as for the assignment in your system. I want to see once in your system for everyone, or you be or not. If you, then we'll continue for second session. Otherwise, I will not allow. Okay. So tomorrow, first half an hour, I would check with every system to perform this practice of struts. Okay. Fine. So catch you tomorrow. Any more questions? Any more queries? Okay. Just drop me a mail or whatever the WhatsApp number. Okay. If you struck any of the scenario, please let me know. I will connect and resolve it. Okay. Fine. So try for this carefully. You can easily to follow the steps wise 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then only understand. Otherwise we'll have a problem. Okay. Remember the architecture and also remember the steps wise procedure where will client and the first time configuration file in the form of deployment descriptor to add a filter. Then we'll have a controller of struts.xml which creates into the classes folder, that is a form of src, and we have a Pojo classes we can create, and no need to extend any of the classes where we'll have a overridden method called execute. Okay, so where it executes the action, and while executing the action which also gets the fields. Okay, each of the field will create as a setter getter in the form of bean property. Okay, that can be accessed immediately for the result page. That is the easier way of introducing this struts2 framework, where it is okay, existing project of X work. Okay. Fine. So we have seen many of the scenarios, but understand the MVC, the flow of execution for struts application. If you understand the flow of execution, you can easily to run, you can easily to deploy, you can easily to develop any kind of application easier. Okay, so tomorrow's session I will introduce you many of the important scenarios where we'll introduce there are the properties file. Okay, we have validations, we have keys, rather than of hard coded here, say suppose label of first name, label of last name. Okay, so that means in the later cases if the client asks to change some other, like first name n would be small letter, lowercase or uppercase kind of thing, again we should open this particular client page and modify. So rather than of this, why don't introduce or why don't add a properties in a way that web application allow there is a properties file, right, text file. So tomorrow I will introduce the properties file. So before going to that, this is a simple way. And before introducing what do you call, there is another important session called session and request. Okay, I will show you the simple database and you can try to navigate any kind of application. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see you the bean properties and database JDBC, and slowly we'll move into another important session called request session and application aware, where we can forward the request into one place to another place. Anyway, you got a information immediately into the result page, right? But session is where it maintains the entire application. If you want, then that will also introduce in tomorrow's session. Okay, fine. So catch you tomorrow at same time, 11 a.m. EST. Okay, I told you already. And one more thing to be fine in the today, Amit and someone. Okay, big check with the internet connections, don't be what do you call, disable in the middle of the session. Okay, thank you, catch you tomorrow at same time, bye bye. And Sheila, RDB join.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, okay, that's fine, good Sheila. So we'll continue same time, same session. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, sir.
okay, that's fine, good. Thank you Sheila, thanks for coming, thanks for adding with us. Okay, bye bye everyone.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, catch you tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Okay, thank you.